Hello, I'm Jenny Riegel from the SEC's Office of the Advocate for Small Business Capital Formation. On September 25, 2019, the SEC proposed amendments to modernize the rule that broker-dealers must comply with before quoting securities in the over-the-counter or OTC market. An over-the-counter market allows for the trading of securities via broker-dealer networks in venues other than registered exchanges. Many smaller companies trade over-the-counter rather than on national exchanges. The current rule requires that a broker-dealer review basic information about a company before initiating a quoted market in the company's security. Securities that trade over-the-counter are primarily owned by retail investors. Because broker-dealers facilitate investor access to over-the-counter securities, the SEC has requirements that broker-dealers must comply with prior to quoting these securities. Let's discuss how the rule works. Exchange Act 15c2-11 requires a broker-dealer to obtain and review information about a company prior to publishing or submitting quotations of a company's security, unless an exception applies. Under the current rule, a company's information is not required to be publicly available. The proposed rule change would primarily impact smaller companies and their investors. It would effectively require that basic current information, such as financial statements, be publicly available for broker-dealers to quote an over-the-counter security. The proposal should not affect most companies that have current and publicly available information. The proposed rule change would also limit how broker-dealers can piggyback on other broker-dealers' review of a company's information. The proposal includes additional limitations on quoting shell company securities. The SEC estimates that there are over 3,000 companies quoted over-the-counter without current and publicly available information. This figure includes some companies who are delinquent in their reporting requirements and others who choose not to provide publicly available information. The proposal, however, would not affect the ability of most individual investors to ask their brokers to submit unsolicited quotations to buy or sell securities. The proposal would add other exceptions to facilitate quotations that may be less susceptible to fraud and manipulation, such as well-capitalized companies whose securities are actively traded. I encourage you to look at the sections of the release that interest you. Liquidity is critical for companies and their investors, and we want to hear from you on how the proposal will impact your capital formation prospects. This video was produced by the SEC's Office of the Advocate for Small Business Capital Formation and is meant to provide only a very high-level summary of the potential impacts of this proposal on smaller companies and their investors. The release itself provides more detail and an opportunity for you to comment. The release can be found on www.sec.gov by clicking on the drop-down Regulation tab at the top of the page and selecting Rulemaking Index. We encourage you to share your feedback with the Commission and to check out our office's video on how to comment. We want to hear from you, and we hope you will engage with the SEC and share your perspective. Help shape the future of capital raising.